In the brightest day, in the blackest night, no evil shall escape my light. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light! Welcome to the weekly pool. We are the podcast from a DC fanatic, a Marvel fanatic, and David. I still don't know what he reads.
That may be one of the greatest intros ever made.
I am Comic Storian. Well, I'm Infected Crow of Comic Storian. Check out my channel at /Comic Storian. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Rob, you go first, so we'll keep this in order. We'll keep it going. Compete with that. Give me something.
I got nothing to compete with that. My name's Rob, and I'm from Marvel Explained, where I explain everything Marvel Comics related.
Where's your oath, Rob?
I don't have an oath, man. I don't have an oath. I don't have a Green Lantern shirt. I don't have any Green Lantern rings. I have no paraphernalia to go along with my comic book stuff.
And I'm David, soon to be from Comics Reviews.
David is launching his own channel. We are teaching him in the ways of the Green Lantern oath.
And YouTube.
Oh yeah, that too.
Oh man! All right. So on
the room you off. You're off your game.
Well, we're done with the podcast, guys. That's it.
For the record, Rob was like, "Can you do the intro?" And I'm like, "I got this planned. Just you're gonna be so off your game. It's gonna be great."
Yeah. After that intro, we're gonna. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you guys later.
For anybody wondering, I have the Green Lantern ring for full power. This is my uniform when I go to OA, and this is my Blue Lantern ring to juice my Green Lantern ring. So that's for those of you who are unaware and not in the know of the DC lore. Blue Lantern rings really can't do anything, but if they're in the vicinity of a Green Lantern ring, they overcharge them.
Huh.
Yeah.
God, man. See, all I remember about Green Lanterns is they had a Green Lantern ring that they had to charge with a giant Green Lantern.
Yeah, they still have that. Pocket Universe.
And then is that a link to OA, or does those batteries get charged?
The pocket batteries link to the giant battery in OA. It's like a portable charger, and they eventually have to go back to OA and charge up their portable batteries.
Yeah.
I think that's OA's way to recall the cops, you know? Come check in. Don't know what you've been doing, Hal, but I hear Earth's about to die again.
Okay, so on this podcast, we're going to talk about a few things. One, of course, we're going to talk about Days of Future Past, which is something that has to be discussed because I think we've finally gotten around to the point.
I want to clarify. The movie and our opinions on the changing of the plot.
Yes, because I think at this point, everybody's seen the movie now. We're also going to be talking about the update to Original Sin, issue number 3, the DC Futures End event, the rumors of DC jumping ahead 5 years in April, and so on and so forth. Also, we're going to talk about the Justice League movie casting, the changes they've done, because I actually don't know about that.
I don't
You don't know about
either.
Batfleck?
Oh, yeah, I know about Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about the pretty little model girl I got for Wonder Woman? We don't need muscles on an Amazonian. Screw that.
Wow, really? See, all I knew is they cast Ben Affleck as Batman, the guy from Man of Steel is coming back as Superman.
Yep.
And I had no idea what other casting choices they made.
Oh, I'm gonna have so much fun.
Apparently, the casting choice for Wonder Woman, they're going to try to get ripped, but I cannot see.
Nope, didn't happen. They already started filming.
Get ripped.
No, they've already started. That was the theory. That was what everyone. They're like, oh, she's a pretty girl, and if she can put muscle mass on, she can pull off one. You know what? Let's just start. I'm gonna run on my tangent. We're just gonna start with Justice League casting choices. All right. We're gonna start with movies, and then we'll go into the DC Comics stuff. We're gonna start with the. Okay. So so we got the guy from Man of Steel, Henry Cavill, whatever his name is, whatever. He did a great job as Superman. The changes to Superman were not him, and that's where we're going to go with this movie stuff. The changes in how they reflect our comic book counterparts. They weren't him. He was a great Superman. The movie itself had problems, in my opinion. But then we got Ben Affleck as Batman. Okay. I mean, the guy was Daredevil and did a horrible job with that, and he ruined that franchise. But
that's what I'm worried about, man. I'm worried about he's going to screw up Batman.
I don't know if he necessarily did a terrible job. I think it was the writing that he couldn't pull
It could have
off.
been, which is why, because Ben Affleck is a good actor in some movies. You know, he's not the guy from what's it called, like Reindeer Games and stuff like that. He's not that guy. He's had a lot of really good movies lately, so I can deal with that.
Town was really good.
Now they pulled off a random chick to be Wonder Woman, and she's tiny. She's a tiny girl, but the running theory was, well, she can get ripped in time to be Wonder Woman. They started filming. She has not put an ounce of muscle on. So on set, unless they're doing like 5 years later, I don't know.
Do it live and we'll fix it in post.
Yeah. Photoshop muscles on her.
We'll 3D track muscles on her.
Yeah. But here's where I don't understand DC and why. Like, why Marvel has literally written the playbook on how we want comic book movies. They've written it. We want a giant continuity. We want every movie to not be related, but related. You know, like first was it a Winter Soldier? You can watch that movie by yourself, but if you watched everything else, you understand so much more.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
Why can't we do that with DC? No, instead we're gonna have the Dark Knight Returns. And now here's my opinion on that one. Everyone's like, well, that's the Nolanverse. The Nolanverse made everything realistic, and it did make everything realistic. But what they didn't do in the Nolanverse is go anywhere else. Gotham has always been slightly grounded in reality, while the rest of the DC universe is like metahumans and insane. And you could have taken the Nolanverse and then just taken all of his movies and put them between 2 and 3 before Batman's retiring and moving to freaking like Italy. What the fuck was up with that? Okay, anyway. You could have put everything else between these and the Nolanverse would have been incorporated. But no, DC wasted 7 years on dark Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Why?
Okay, but all right, I'm gonna go to bat for Christopher Nolan on this. All right, if they made other DC movies like Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, they would be amazing. If they had like Superman, and you
Nolan
have
was
like a gritty
Man of
down
Steel.
version of Superman.
So here's the kicker. Here's what makes no sense. So Christopher Nolan did the Dark Knight series. That Batman trilogy is standalone and on its own. And to kick it all off, it's only a few years old. We're not talking about like the Tim Burton universe that is like Burtonverse from forever ago. We're talking about a few years old. He then produced he had some kind of credit on Man of Steel to make it that darker tone. So you're already starting to line up Man of Steel with the design and feel that you've given Dark Knight. Now,
that's what everybody was excited about.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we have the Man of Steel 2, which is now Batman versus Superman. We've recast Batman, new everything. We got Superman coming back. We got a new Wonder Woman. We've got Cyborg showing up. That seems to be an okay casting. But here's where it blows my mind. So this is Dawn of Justice, and then we're filming the Justice League movie following it, right? Mm-hmm. They still are casting Green Lantern and the Flash and all this other stuff. The CW is running, dude, I watch Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Arrow TV show is 10 times better.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing.
Is.
And they're now launching a Flash show to go in line with the Arrow show. We've cast Green Arrow. We've cast the Flash. And while we're not 100% on board with the Flash being like 10 years younger and an intern instead of being Barry Allen 30, in his career, we've cast him. So why are we going to launch that TV show and then like a year later recast the Flash and put him in the movie?
Yeah, see, that's one of the things that I liked about the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. element of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is, I mean, in terms of like production value, it's just not very good. Like the acting is not very good. Like Deathlock
it's
was
weird.
pretty much like the only major super kind of powered person that you saw.
That was my complaint with they tried too much to go Whedon on it. Whedon wanted to create this inner universe, and as much as I liked the first 12 episodes, that alienated most of the public who watched it because we didn't have Deathlock, we didn't have superpowers. We had a CIA group in a world with superheroes where all they ever did was say, well, hey, I know Thor.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the deal. What I thought would be what I was hoping, and what I thought would be really cool about the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. storyline or the show is that we would get a chance to see characters and superheroes that just weren't very big.
Yeah,
they just weren't big.
They pull up the D lineup, the C lineup,
Exactly.
They're saying that they're gonna do more of that in season 2.
And then you know what?
So.
And I will somewhat. Season 1 of Arrow was horrendous. I hated season 1. The character of Arrow killed people. He didn't go by the name Green Arrow. He didn't have a mask. The whole entire plot was off the wall. All it was him trying to get his own revenge. It was nothing like Green Arrow. It was just a guy with a bow and a green hood. That's all it freaking was. Season 2, 100% redeemed that series. It brought in other villains. It brought in a code on the Arrow. He had the Arrow cave. He had his proper sidekicks. He got his mask. Everything became Green Arrow in one season. And Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been announced for season 2. They can do that still.
Yeah.
We can get some B-listers into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope they also, I know this might have some conflicts and stuff with contracts and whatnot, but I really hope that they actually tie in the Daredevil, Iron Fist,
Oh no!
all that stuff
that's
they're
all
doing
tied
on
in. That's not
Netflix.
contract. That Netflix agreed to take over that part of the Marvel universe. See, that is what is pissing me off. Marvel is doing it right. They're not letting any characters go unless it incorporates into the universe so that we have this giant continuity project that is going to be freaking amazing. DC's like, Nolan, go make Batman. Zack Snyder, go make Superman. That's fine. You didn't read a comic? We don't care. Do what you want with the guy. Yeah, Batman, Superman kills people. That's cool. We'll just go ahead and do that. That's whatever. Then the Marvel Cinematic Universe is horrible, but they do loosely make it so that it could have tied into everything. I don't know if you watched the Black Widow Punisher movie.
No.
No,
It's like
I didn't know they had one.
It's Avengers Confidential, and it's Black Widow and Punisher. And while it's not direct continuity, if you don't know what's going on, like continuity-wise, you could assume it's a part of it. It's fine. It doesn't break any walls.
Or is it
Yeah, it's
live
animated. But it links enough into there that you can understand it and be like, oh, okay, I watched the Avengers. I know who Black Widow is. Who's the Punisher? Oh, this is cool. Oh, look, more history on the Black Widow that is in line with what's going on with the Avengers. So you don't, like, we know it's not technically in there, but it could totally be in there. DC is just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, the animated universe is all by itself. And that is now following the New 52. The movies are doing their own complete Nolan thing. We got the TV show over at CW. CW can do what they want with the characters. And DC, like, no one has sat down and said, hey, guys, we got, like, 3 camps. Why don't we just merge half of this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that's
another thing is they do a great job on their animated stuff.
what I was going
Their
to say.
animated stuff is unbelievable.
I mean,
But-
most hardcore fans will argue with you on a few things, like in Justice League War, why is Superman a dick? My opinion, a lot of the things that people argue about is to condense it into an hour movie. In the comics, Justice League Origin, what War was based on, Superman was a dick. But in the comics, we had enough time to elaborate why. While in the movie, Superman's just a dick.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing though. Like if you sit down and watch the Doctor Strange animated film, like there were some differences between that and the comic, but they weren't like very noticeable. Like there were small itty bitty differences, but basically Dr. Stephen Strange was a neurosurgeon. He was a dick. He got in a car wreck, lost the use of his hands, didn't want to be relegated to the position of a teacher, so he spent all his money trying to find a cure, stumbled across the ancient one in Tibet, and then over time becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. I mean that's basically the story of Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Summed up in 10 seconds. I mean the animated movie really follows that exact pattern, and that's what I really enjoy about Marvel's animated film. That's what I really enjoy about their whole thing, because you're right, they do have this cool continuity going on, but everything's related. Like you could sit down and watch all these independent films and know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, even the stuff that isn't. It's like someone sits down and goes, okay, we're not going to incorporate your movie into our overall movie theme. You're going to do your own thing. But you have to make sure that you hit this note, you do this, and you talk about this. Hit those 4 things and you can have the right... You can have the rights to do what you want.
All right, so here's my question about the animated film with Punisher and Black Widow. So how did they depict a Punisher? Because almost every single version, like when you had Thomas Jane playing the Punisher in 2004, whenever it was, like almost every single version of the Punisher.
Oh, in this one, he's the guy who runs around guns and kills people, does what he wants. S.H.I.E.L.D. tries to recruit him. He says that Fury he's doing things his own way. When they finally do recruit the Punisher, he still does his own way. Matter of fact, they get in there and he's like, all right, doing my own thing. Fuck you.
Well, so here was the thing. Here's the thing about Frank Castle. Like Frank Castle as the Punisher, like he had a personal code. Like his code was that if he's going to fight somebody, he'll fight them in an honorable way. Like he won't just kill them arbitrarily. Like he'll fight them and like in hand-to-hand combat but whatever it is, like he'll make his presence known and let them know, like, I'm the Punisher and I'm probably gonna kill you, and then they would get into a fight and then he would end up killing
yeah,
you. So.
No, he pretty much does that if I remember correctly. I saw it a couple weeks ago now, but
okay.
But
that was one of the things that drove me insane, is they would always depict him as like a mass murderer, just arbitrary killer with no real
it opens up
rationale.
with him like killing a bunch of gangsters and stuff. Then he goes to the head of the gangster and he gives like a whole speech about the guy. And then S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up, and that's when the movie kicks off. The S.H.I.E.L.D.'s like, you ruined our sting! And he's like, I don't do things your way. You would have let him stay on the streets for 3 more weeks, but I killed him. It's good. So, and then the whole thing's him trying to chase that one guy down. But,
Okay.
But I mean, and that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand about this Justice League casting. Like the casting options just seems like they're doing it just to get us to do this, talk about the movie.
Yeah.
No one sits down and goes, okay, Ben Affleck would make a good Batman. They all sit down and go, if we cast Ben Affleck, will you believe what the fans are going to say? It'll be everywhere. Okay, get a supermodel to be Wonder Woman. It's going to be freaking hilarious.
Well, that's the difference, because at the end of the day, like when however long this Marvel thing goes on for, I mean, they've got it going on forever and ever and ever and ever. But in the year 2050, assuming people are still buying Blu-rays or something like that,
Yeah.
when somebody is sitting at Best Buy and they've got this great big huge, 20 Blu-ray set from Marvel, and they've got a great big huge 20 Blu-ray set from DC, which one are they more likely to choose when the Marvel one is interrelated and you can watch each one independently, or you can watch them all in order?
What I liked about the Marvel casting was they picked people who actually looked like the characters and could play the character properly. They didn't pick the big stars. They picked the medium road guys, and this launched a lot of their careers. Robert Downey Jr.'s career got restarted by Iron Man.
Yeah.
Chris Hemsley, dude, he was just in nothing but romantic comedies before he was, Thor. What's the guy that plays? Why am I forgetting his name?
I was trying to remember his name. It's
Captain
Chris
America.
something or other.
Yeah, it's like another Chris. But and he was another romantic comedy guy. He didn't have much of a career. Then he became Captain America. Now it's everywhere. They didn't go into the bottom of the barrel and pick their superheroes out. Everybody kind of had some kind of, but they made sure that the actresses and actors matched. When it comes to DC, it's like you picked Henry Cavill. I can give you Ben Affleck to an extent, but none of your other casting choices seem to make any sense. Did you hear about Jesse Eisenberg being Luthor supposedly?
Yeah. I mean, that's...
Their casting choices are so off-the-wall crazy that when a April Fool's gag rumor went around that Justin Bieber was going to play Robin, everyone believed it.
I believed it. I believed it, man. I saw a picture. I saw a picture of him holding a skit of him playing Robin, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's no way this is true."
It's because their decisions are so insane. Everyone was like, "Oh, they would totally do that. What the hell, DC?"
They would do that, man. Pull in those 12-year-old girls. I mean, they would do that. I mean, pull in those kids.
I really hope it's a good movie, but I don't really have much faith in DC in terms of continuity in order for them to pull off a continuous universe.
Right. Well,
because they don't have the setup.
They don't. Marvel spent the Iron Man and Iron Man 2 setting everything up. They took the time. They weren't like, "Oh, how many movies can we get out before this fad dies?" They were like, "Oh, if the fad dies, whatever, we still have the Avengers. We've still made something out of this." And this leads me to, this actually is a great segue to Days of Future Past, because what you just said, you don't have the faith in them doing this. Now, I've gotten a lot of heated discussions about Days of Future Past, and I think even you and I have gotten into a few discussions about it, Rob. I've gotten a bunch at the comic book store. Everyone who's a comic book fan hates Days of Future Past. Everyone who is not a comic book fan loves Days of Future Past. I've yet to see anybody say it's a shitty movie and they weren't a comic book fan. And this kind of leads to the way I'm trying to go into Justice League. You can't go with Days of Future Past. We'll go into more about it in a minute because this is more your domain. But in my opinion, when it comes to these comic book movies, because even Avengers and everything messed it up to an extent, you have to assume they're a separate universe. Everyone blips the freak out because they sent Wolverine back. They did it because Wolverine's popular. Why do you think the non-comic book fans liked the movie?
Yeah.
If they had sent back Kitty Pryde, everyone would have been like, "Oh, where's Hugh Jackman and his sexy abs?" Like, just admit it. You know he's good.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I was sitting in that theater and I was like, "Oh my God, that guy's rich."
I am 100% straight. I'm married, but I'm gonna say when he got up out of bed butt naked, I'm like, "Oh my God, what is his workout? I need to do that."
Yeah, I was like, "Man, I need to get back in the gym." Like I saw him standing, I was like, "Man, I need to."
He's just like, "Oh yeah, what up, guys?"
Between that and The Rock,
I got veins all over.
I was like, man,
yeah, man,
I gotta get jacked at some point because if I don't,
Hugh Jackman, you just made every comic book fan cry because I think all of us like to sit down and read, and we're not too worried about the gym. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like, and that's what people don't seem to get. Like everyone flipped out about Man of Steel. I mean, and that's why I think this is a great segue. Everyone, you guys aren't huge DC fans. I don't know how much of a fan you are, David. But the DC fans flipped out because Superman killed Zod. Superman doesn't kill. Superman, but that's incorrect. As far as comic books go, Superman doesn't kill until 3 years ago. You reboot in the New 52, and he has killed a Kryptonian dragon. He has killed Doomsday now. I believe he killed Hell, which was another Kryptonian guy. He's selective, and he does it when it's needed. That's what the new Superman they've made.
Because like in a lot of the animated stuff I've watched for Superman and some of the comic books, like in All-Star Superman, for example, and I know that's not in the whole, DC main universe, but he kills that alien at the end.
Right. And
He throws that alien right into the sun, doesn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. It's been a while since I read All-Star, but
I mean, there are instances where Superman has killed.
Exactly.
And it's for good reason.
It's always been a good reason. It's always been because he had to. Exactly what happened to Man of Steel. He had to kill Zod, or Zod was going to I-beam all those guys. But the thing is, he's always killed in the alternate universes. So you need to assume that Man of Steel is not your 72-year on-running, Action Comics Superman. He's somewhere closer to the New 52 Superman. He's somewhere closer to the new reboots. He's a different universe. We have a multiverse for a reason, guys.
Yeah.
And that applies to Days of Future Past also. Everyone's freaking out because of Kitty Pryde.
Yeah.
Why?
And people freak out because stuff isn't exactly like the comics, and stuff isn't exactly like the comics. Because if even a comic book fan went into the movie theater and watched Days of Future Past exactly like it was, they'd complain exactly as much because there's no surprise.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It would have been ruined, 20 years ago when Days of Future Past came out.
Well, that's actually what I was talking to Rob about the other day. I think when we first met, we were asking our opinions about it, and I told him, I'm like, I read a really good thing from a radio show, and the guy was saying, there's a reason why these stories don't 100% mimic their comic books. Because regardless of comic books fans going, oh my god, they made Man of Steel and Days of Future Past for me, I'm a comic book fan. No, they didn't. Comic books sell, on a good sale, 60,000 issues.
Mm-hmm.
Those movies do 100 millions, 150 millions. That is not the comic book audience.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. Regardless of us loving our movies and loving seeing our superheroes up on the screen and animated stuff, I am actually enjoying it more ever since I stopped trying to relate them to the comics.
I was going to say that. I agree with you so much because I used to be a real big stickler for that. I went and saw the original, the first X-Men film, and I was like, this movie sucks. Wolverine and Sabretooth don't know each other, and Magneto wants to turn the world's leaders into mutants, and I was like, this is absolutely stupid. And once I walked away from that, and I was like, just go see it for the sake of it being a Marvel film, I was like, this is awesome.
Exactly.
These movies are amazing.
I had the exact same thing with X-Men. I went to go see it with my wife, and she's not a huge X-Men fan. She likes more of the DC stuff in general, which is why we're more of a DC house. But, we got out of that X-Men, and she's like, well, why are you upset? And I was explaining everything they messed up in continuity. And X-Men 1, 2, and 3, I hated them for that reason, but I watched every single one of them. I hated Spider-Man 3 for the same reason. Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi just said, how bad can I make this?
yeah, basically.
I'm being rushed out the door. How bad can I destroy this franchise?
Exactly, and it was like, I don't want to do a 4, and we're going to make sure I don't do a 4.
Yeah.
But it was like, I hated them for the same reason. But when Marvel came out with Iron Man, I didn't know anything about Iron Man. Iron Man was like a D-lister. Yeah, he was an Avenger, but he was some guy in a suit of armor. No one cared. His biggest thing in comic history was that he was an alcoholic. That was it.
He was Robert Downey Jr. made Iron Man popular. He was cool, and he had some roles here and there, but he's not nearly as interesting in the comics as he is in the films.
So when I went to go see Iron Man, I had no idea about Iron Man. So I had no idea if the continuity was accurate or not. And I loved the movie. And when I came out of that movie, I looked up Iron Man and I saw what they did mess up. And I'm like, but you know what? I liked that movie because I didn't try to compare this beforehand. It's fun to look at it afterwards and go, oh, they messed that up. Oh, now I feel like a super nerd because I know what really happened with Extremis. I know who the Mandarin really is. He's not some guy trying to pretend.
Yeah.
Well, did you see the Marvel one-shot where they remedied that?
Yeah, where he's becoming Mandarin now because there's so much backlash from that.
Well, he's either becoming the Mandarin or the real Mandarin's going to confront him or something. And they're setting up for Iron Man.
I didn't see that. I saw the trailer for it. I didn't actually watch the full thing. From what I had heard, it was setting up for the Mandarin to really show up finally. Yeah. Basically it.
Yeah.
But... And this is where people get it wrong. I went to the comic book store the day after Days of Future Past came in, and I walked in there, and the first thing they're like, did you watch Days of Future Past? I'm like, yeah, I kind of liked it. He goes, oh, it was so bad. It was horrendous. It was so just messed up. Kitty Pryde needed to go in the past, and, the Sentinels, they looked horrendous. What is this Mystique stuff? And I'm like, yeah, but if you don't try to compare it to the 1981 storyline that no one has read pretty much at this point in comic, everyone talks about Days of Future Past, but go to your average comic book reader. Do you really think he's read it? you know.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like it's like Days of Future Past is one of the most well-known Chris Claremont X-Men stories, and it's well-known and name only for the most part.
Exactly.
Because
Well,
you could-
it's well known because of the future X-Men. No one knows the true story. They just know that there's a future of X-Men where the apocalypse happened.
Well, that's why I said when we were discussing this before, I was like, I guarantee that like 99% of people who are not comic book fans and are going to see this movie want to see what it's like in the future.
Yeah.
Like they want to see X-Men get killed. And here was the thing. Like I know a lot of people complained. A lot of people said, "Oh my God, you know, this and this and that and that." But at the end of the day, that was a good movie. I don't care what people say. Like I am an avid X-Men fan. I am an avid Marvel Comics X-Men fan. So if, you know, for the most part, like I would argue until the bitter end when it came to different things and continuity changes and so on and so forth. But as an avid X-Men fan, I went into the Days of Future Past and I was initially skeptical because it's a Fox X-Men film and they have a bad track record in terms of making X-Men films.
First Class wasn't bad though.
First Class was good.
Yeah.
But from the time I got into that movie to the time that I left, I was not bored. I was entertained 100% of the time. Did I feel like Hugh Jackman overtook the role? No. And that was the great thing because Hugh Jackman was the one that went into the past, but Hugh Jackman didn't really do anything the entire movie.
He didn't. And I actually loved that. I love the fact that they used Hugh Jackman to pull everybody in. Wolverine. And they spent the first 30 minutes about Wolverine, and then they just went to everybody else.
Exactly.
They're like, here's Wolverine. Check out his claws. You love Wolverine. He's going to make a few more jokes, but he's going to follow Professor X and Magneto and Mystique, and we're going to follow that plot, and we're going to follow Quicksilver, and we're not really... Wolverine's not going to save the day. Now, my only real complaint about it was, in the very ending, he should have done something, because he was, like I told you, he was useless. The very ending, he just gets chucked, and it's like, all right, well, he didn't even touch anything. Go Wolverine.
But see, I thought that was, I've been thinking about that since you said that. I thought that was a smart move because it was a way to get Wolverine out of the picture. Because the problem is that when people go and see an X-Men film and Hugh Jackman is on the front cover, like plastered all over the front cover as like, you know, the main star, so to speak, then the question becomes, what is he going to do? Like, is Wolverine really going to be the one to save the day? But we saw the movie progress in a way where ultimately it was basically Charles Xavier, Magneto, and Mystique's fight. It didn't have anything to do with Wolverine. Wolverine was simply there to monitor and to make sure that things went according to plan.
Right.
But I liked the element of Mystique's character, of Jennifer Lawrence, my homegirl, you know, getting, you know, her character developing to the point where she was able to establish herself as an independent character. And so at the end of the movie, it basically came down to her struggle. Which side is she going to align with? Is she going to align with Charles Xavier and his peaceful coexistence, or is she going to align with Magneto and we have to strike first?
Right.
So I liked the fact that they spent basically the entire movie developing her character, either directly with her or for the most part indirectly through the experiences that she had that we didn't see with Magneto and the experiences from the first film with Xavier. And so by the end of the movie, we're left with this question, which side is Mystique going to choose? And I thought it was done extremely well, and I thought it was done in an amazing way. And the fact that Wolverine was basically totally removed from the film by being wrapped in metal and thrown to the bottom of the Potomac River was a great way to allow her to step into that role.
I agree with you 100%. And actually, it literally just dawned on me right now when you said that. But this also showed the average moviegoer who's not a comic book fan that Wolverine is not this unstoppable beast that can solve everything.
Exactly.
Right. Because that
exactly.
I mean, in the comic books, we know that. We like, you know, Avengers vs. X-Men, when Wolverine went on his own solo mission, he really couldn't do much other than find Hope and say that he's going to kill her. You know, Age of Ultron, he had to go back in time and then get thrown around and tore apart. He's not, but the movies made him out to be like Wolverine will solve everything. Wolverine is unstoppable. He can heal through anything. He's just, you can't stop Wolverine. And this movie removed that from the equation. They were like, nope, he's still a guy with claws. Bye.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's like in the Civil War storyline that I'm getting ready to do. Like, there's two comics where Wolverine just hunts Nitro. Like, that's all he does. Nitro was the one that blew up that part of Stamford, Connecticut, and there's comics where Wolverine is hunting him, but that's it. Like, that's all Wolverine really does. Like, he's just basically hunting for Nitro. And then Nitro blows up, Wolverine survives, and then he confronts him and is like, I'm not dead yet. And that's really it. Like, there's really, you know, no great, big, huge, you know, Wolverine saves the world kind of thing going on. Wolverine single-handedly ends the Civil War. Wolverine is a guy that can heal from stuff, and he's got claws, and he can kill people.
Right.
You know, in the grand scheme of everything that goes on in Marvel Comics, Wolverine's just not that important. He's not that powerful, and he's not that special.
He's just a cool guy. He's that anti-hero.
He's just a really cool guy.
He's pretty much the anti-hero that survived the 90s.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I'm gonna wear jeans and drink beer.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
For the
that's
record,
basically it. You know?
Fun side note: is everyone here aware that Wolverine cannot get drunk?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just
Yeah.
like Captain America. Captain
Yeah.
America can't get drunk either.
I thought he could get drunk. It took enough.
No, well, at least not in the movies. But he has like a healing factor to some extent too, and he has an increased metabolism.
Well, it's his metabolism. See, that's the thing. Like Captain America, to my knowledge, doesn't really have a healing factor.
No, it's
Okay,
metabolism.
not comparable to like Wolverine.
But
No.
for the record, and
It's
I
no
mean, it was supposed to be more of a joking sense, but in the beginning of Original Sin, they were all eating a ton of steak. And Captain America does have a fast metabolism, but he even comments, "I need to stop eating. I have to run like 10 miles tomorrow to burn this thing off."
Yeah. That was a really, really cool scene when you had Wolverine and Captain America, Nick Fury, and
Black Widow.
who was the fourth? Black
was
Widow.
Black
Yeah,
Widow,
all
yeah.
eating a steak. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And Wolverine's like, "Well, hey, bub, you're gonna run anyway. Why don't you go ahead and eat it?" And he's like, "No, I think I'm done." Wolverine's like, "Well, if you're not gonna eat it, punk."
Exactly. Okay. So let's take a second to talk about Original Sin number 3. All right. So have you guys read Original Sin number 3 yet?
Oh, are we done with Days of the Future Past? We're done. We're wrapped up.
Well, if you guys still want to talk about Days of Future Past,
you gotta
you
come
can.
up with a segue. We gotta be like.
I mean, I'm fine
By
with
the
talking
way,
more about Days
in
of
Days
Future
of
Past.
Future Past, we have Wolverine. But did you know what else Wolverine is in? Original Sin. What happened in
Original
issue
Sin.
3?
Okay, actually,
It can at least be a shitty segue.
all right, so since you brought Days of Future Past back up, all right, let's talk about the Sentinels for a second. I want to talk about the Sentinels because Benny and I, we've had this
I don't
conversation.
like them. The Sentinels are like 5 stories tall, unstoppable giant robots. They're not metamorphosing. They're not changing their appearance. They're not made out of scales. I like these Sentinels weren't bad, but they weren't Sentinels. That's my opinion. Okay, if we were gonna have Sentinels, I was looking for something enormous, giant, like the size of a building. Something that is an actual problem, not something that's almost man-size with some guns. And that's pretty much what these Sentinels were. They weren't even. They should have just called them like baby Sentinels or Sentinels 1.0.
But see, this is the thing: is I'm a big watcher of the animated series, or at least I was growing up.
Everybody
and
was,
I'm
man.
also starting to read comics. And are Sentinels in the comics and in the animated series really that dangerous?
Yeah.
Because, like, I remember
the sheer
watching the
abundance.
animated series, and Wolverine would literally cut them in half like they were paper.
Well, here's the problem with
okay.
Sentinel. One Sentinel has never been a problem for the X-Men.
Yes.
But the problem is, when one Sentinel finds you, there's normally like 10 others coming up. And when they're that large, that's the problem. And that is the problem. That they're so big. Yeah, the whole X-Men team can take out one. Wolverine can cleave the top of it up. Beast can jump up, knock the head off. Everyone can, but it takes the whole team typically to take one down. And then you get 10 of them because one alerted the whole group. Actually, comes in.
Now, here was the thing about Sentinels, and I was actually thinking about this before because you said that you didn't like Sentinels because of the fact that they could they were shapeshifters and stuff like that. All right, so we see a point when they finally invade the Chinese, Chinese temple, wherever it is that they're at. All right, there's like hundreds of them. There, thousands that come pouring out of these
like the
drop ships.
Matrix-style ships to drop them off. Like, what is that?
All right, now here was the thing. Here's one thing that I found interesting. In the beginning of the film, there were maybe 3 or 4 of them that single-handedly basically managed to destroy almost everybody, or at least at the time it was perceived they destroyed everybody until we learned that
they did kill
Bishop
everyone.
had somehow Bishop had somehow gone back in time and warned them, and that's a plot hole that I'm not even gonna try to get into right now.
Wait. I don't even know there's a plot hole there. He goes back in time, he warns them they don't go to that spot.
All right.
Kitty Pryde is with the group, and she has been sending his consciousness back.
They're pretty much that's the movie way of establishing what the power is. That's what they did.
I understand that, but okay, I'm gonna be a little nitpicky here. Bishop is a time traveler, but he's a technological time traveler. He uses technology to travel through time. All right. Kitty Pryde never had the ability to send somebody's consciousness anywhere.
Because they're not going to introduce Rachel Summers. We're not getting Rachel Summers.
I know. I wish they had. I really wish, even if it was just like a tip of the hat and Franklin Richards dies in the first 5 seconds of the film, I would like to have seen either one of them. But nonetheless, I'm not, that's why I said I didn't want to. But nonetheless, so.
Rob, we just said you have to look at it as a different continuity.
I have to look at it as a different continuity.
And in this continuity, Kitty Pryde's phasing ability has somehow given her a second mutation to time travel.
I mean, it happens, man. It happened. I mean, Emma Frost diamond form was a secondary mutation. So, what I thought was interesting about the Sentinels is basically we saw, for all intents and purposes, everybody killed by no more than 3 Sentinels.
Right.
And then at the end of the movie, they have this huge horde of them that show up. If the Sentinels can shapeshift and they can adapt to any kind of attack, they're basically all Nimrod. Then why would we have this huge army of Sentinels? This is why I kind of agreed with Benny when it came to the Sentinels. The thing about the Sentinels, Dave, is that there's thousands of them. Like there's so many of them because by the time we get to like X Factor, and by the time we get to the Return to the X-Men, so we have the gold and the blue X-Men teams, the Sentinels are being mass produced. Like they're an assembly line product. They're no longer being created by hand.
As a matter of fact, the true Days of Future Past line, and I think they slightly, I got really confused in the movie how they explained this, but the way it happens is they become so many Sentinels that they start mass producing themselves. So that's how we lose control of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They become autonomous and start designing, like they kind of become like Skynet of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so many of them. So while they're not, astronomically powerful, I mean, in Days of Future Past comic, Wolverine was totally incinerated by one, but that was like a super powerful Sentinel that was designed to guard the home base.
Super Sentinel.
But nonetheless, I mean, like in Marvel Comics, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but they had a character named Nimrod. He was a super Sentinel from the Days of Future Past that was actually a point that extended beyond what we saw in the comics. But he was like the ultimate Sentinel. And so he could basically do anything. Like he could shapeshift, he could adapt to any attack. He was like the Sentinels that we saw in the film. And that was the first thing that I thought when I saw them. I was like, these guys remind me of Nimrod. Like they all seem like Nimrod. They don't really look like him because Nimrod was white and he, merged with Bash and all that kind of stuff. Nonetheless, like they remind me of Nimrod. They can sense weaknesses in people. They can do all kinds of different things. And so the way they were portrayed really kind of seemed to run counter to the basis of the Sentinels and the fact that it's just the sheer number of them that overwhelm whatever it is that they're fighting, as opposed to them being able to adapt to anything. Because if you had Sentinels that could adapt to anything, then you would really only need like 100 of them at any particular point in time.
You would run into the Borg problem.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You would. They were just
Borg will throw 5 people at you. You take them all out. Now you can't do that again. And then Borg
they adapt.
5 more, and you're like, ah!
Yeah. God, I love the Borg. Yeah. But that was the thing. That was the one thing that really kind of irked me. Now, in terms of like the Sentinels themselves, the Sentinels to me were a backdrop. I mean, they were just really showing us how bad the future is, how bleak it is, and how this is just the one hope that they have. But here was the one thing that of all the things I didn't really care for, the one thing that really kind of bothered me, and there were a lot of things that I liked, was that Charles Xavier was alive. And that was something that I just didn't really like because Charles Xavier dying was really like a pivotal point in the comics.
Do you know how they explain that in the movie?
About Charles Xavier living?
Yeah. I don't
remember that.
I don't remember that either, but I know
don't even know where it's revealed.
X-Men movie.
I can't find where it's revealed. But what they're basically stating is he died in X3. The man in the bed was apparently his identical twin brother.
Oh, come on.
I'm not even
kidding. No way.
This has supposedly been revealed by Brian Snyder. What's his name? Brian Singer. And I'm not 100% where, but if you look at the timelines, it's in everybody's timeline. So supposedly,
no way, you're kidding.
Nope, it's in everybody's timeline, and it's revealed in some like interview or something. I don't know, but supposedly that body was his identical twin brother, who's been brain dead since birth. So Xavier takes it over, and they explain the legs thing because it's linked to his powers by this movie. They explain that when he has his powers, he gets crippled again. That's how they explain why when he takes over his identical twin's brother's body, he's also crippled.
Oh my God!
I thought they just said, I'm sorry guys, but X-Men 3 never happened.
It's
like I thought that's how they did it.
No, with the timeline correction, it never happened.
Yeah.
But with the Days of Future Past original timeline, they're saying it still happened and everything went through.
But see, I'm not upset about that. If Days of Future Past gets rid of X-Men 3, then Brian Singer is my new best friend because that movie was trash.
Since we're staying in the 70s, 80s, they kind of got rid of all of them now.
Yeah.
The only ones that are important now are First Class and Days of Future Past. So.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say because now they can pretty much do anything they want to. Like they can just reboot it entirely.
Supposedly, he's already planning his Phoenix story that he was originally going to do that they completely got rid of in 3.
So here's my question.
Made that.
So here's my question. Like, if you guys remember in X3, probably the only real redeeming factor in the movie was Ben Foster playing Warren Worthington III. And I really want to see Ben Foster come back, because if Ben Foster comes back as Angel and we have X-Men Apocalypse coming up, that means we get to see Archangel. Now, whether or not he loses his wings because a business partner blew up his jet or not, I don't know. But I would really love to see Archangel in a future X-Men film.
I don't want to go too much into this because we don't know anything about it, and this could probably turn into a whole entire show of speculation. But I don't think they're going to do Age of Apocalypse. I don't think we can go from one end of the world plot line to another end of the world plot line.
Yeah.
I think Apocalypse is going to show up, but yeah.
Okay. Well, even if they don't do Age of Apocalypse, then the introduction of Apocalypse basically means a couple things.
It could be a number of storylines that lead to Age of Apocalypse down the road.
But you got to remember, when it came to Apocalypse, Apocalypse was largely an X-Factor character. So we're talking about X-Factor X-Men. So the question is, are the original X-Men just going to take off from Xavier and do their own thing?
Right.
Is he just going to be like an X-Men villain, and it's not going to be X-Factor or anything? I mean, I'm curious what direction they take this in.
I mean, the original plan was X-Men Origins. They were going to do all the characters. Instead, they did First Class because Wolverine Origins did so horribly. And
God, it was terrible.
And then, but then we had the Origin, and then we had First Class. And I'm waiting for spin-offs. I mean, Spider-Man's already announced. Amazing Spider-Man 3 is 2018. Between then, we've got apparently Venom, Sinister Six, and like 2 other freaking movies about villains. Like, what?
All right, so the Sinister Six, I think, is going to be interesting because in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, we actually saw elements of the Sinister Six. Like, Spider-Man lost his powers in the Sinister Six storyline in the beginning because he was just like, he was like a mental block. He was depressed about Uncle Ben dying. So, or it being his fault or whatever the reason was. But nonetheless, like, we saw like that really kind of picking up in the Sinister Six in the comics in the beginning. But in the movie, like, Gwen Stacy dies. And so he really just kind of loses the reason to be Spider-Man anymore.
Venom makes sense. We can make Venom a hero. You can make him an anti-hero, and you can, in the end, he can just go true evil, whatever. Because Venom's done that. Sinister Six has never been good guys. Who was the protagonist?
Yeah, Spider-Man might be the protagonist.
Is he going to show up for like
Spider-Man movie?
Andrew Garfield shows up for 15 minutes of it just to be there and kick their ass while we see behind-the-scenes shit happening?
Well, but that was the thing. Like, the original Sinister Six story was really cool because it was basically like, it was like the movie Game of Death from Bruce Lee. Like, he just went up levels. Every time he went up a level, it was a new guy. That's basically how the Sinister Six works. Like, you had Dr. Octopus, who was like, I've been defeated by Spider-Man countless times, so I'm going to assemble a team. Each time he fights a member of the Sinister Six, he's going to fight them in a location that's conducive to their powers.
Right.
So he fights Electro in an electrical plant. Stuff like that. So the question is, like, is that how the Sinister Six film is going to go? Is it going to be a series of Spider-Man fighting different villains, or is it going to be, I'm fighting all 6 people at one time? And who are the 6 people going to be? I mean, Paul Giamatti showed up at the very end as Rhino, so obviously we're going to see Rhino continue on in other films.
No, that wasn't Rhino. That was Mecha Rhino.
That Mecha Rhino, yeah. There was people were pissed off about that. Like, there were a lot of them.
Rhino.
I mean, Rhino was a physical guy that was dressed up like a rhino, and he was strong.
I think they're probably going to go there. I mean, without going into speculation on this, we can do a whole show on Amazing Spider-Man, why we hate it and why we love it. But does anyone love it?
I don't. I didn't really like it that much.
But as far as like these, I totally lost my train of thought. I just started thinking about Rhino and just I just kind of like fixated on Rhino. Like,
but
the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, the Sinister Six are introduced. And it's in a way of Dr. Octopus shows up. Have you seen the cartoon?
All right, I've seen bits and pieces. Is it Miles Morales that's playing the Ultimate Spider-Man?
No. It's Peter Parker before all that happened.
Okay.
But Dr. Octopus shows up, and in the background of a lot of the episodes, he's putting together the Sinister Six. Until they finally get introduced, and the Spider-Man has to go fight them all and go crazy and blah, 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 blah. But then he has to get help to finish them. In the Ultimate Universe, he gets Iron Fist and White Cat and all these other people. But that's where I don't see why we can have a Sinister Six solo movie. Like, we couldn't even give Spider-Man enough time in Amazing Spider-Man 2. We're gonna have a whole movie devoted down to the Sinister Six forming. Like,
well, see, I hope they do it smart, because the one lesson that I think that Sony should have learned from Spider-Man 3 is you can't have too many villains introduced in such a short amount of time and have a good plot. I mean, we had Sandman, we had Harry Osborn, and we had Venom, all introduced, or not really introduced, but all either introduced or reintroduced as bad guys to Spider-Man over the course of a 2.5-hour movie, and it was a total piece of trash. The movie was absolutely awful because it was everywhere. There was no real linear line
Amazing
to
Spider-Man
it.
2. It was everywhere. It was trying to set up all of these future movies, and you're like, where are we going?
3 villains, we had 2 major villains and 1 like half villain.
Yeah.
And I felt like it could have been 2.5 movies.
Yeah.
Like I felt like it could have been split up a lot more.
It really could have, but I think that here's what I think is happening. In all honesty, when it comes to Sony and Fox, I think they're looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're looking at movies like Captain America: The Winter Soldier that are approaching $1 billion in revenue. You know, they're looking at these movies that are just super popular. They're looking at all the fan talk about the Age of Ultron or the Ultron in Avengers 2. They're looking at fans talking about Captain America 3, which was an incredibly stupid mistake for DC or for Fox to say they're going to release Justice League on the same day as Captain America 3 That was an incredibly bad decision.
DC, I don't think gives a crap about their movie. I don't think they do. I just don't care. DC is like, how much buzz can we make about how bad this movie is so everybody goes to see it?
Well, okay, you can't look. Okay, DC cannot look at Captain America 1 and then Captain America 2 on top of the Avengers and all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies to date and say our movie is going to be able to successfully compete with Captain America 3. In what universe would anyone believe that they're going to be able to make a movie that's going to rival Captain America 3?
I love
way.
DC. I do. And I hate the stupid stuff they do. I hate the delays. I hate what they've done with a lot of these characters, which we're going to talk about at the end of this, what they've done to Supergirl lately. But I love them to death. And I'm going to see Captain America before the Justice League movie.
I am. I might not even go see the
Captain America
Justice
3
League
is established. I know it'll be good. I know nothing about it, and I know it'll be good. But the Man of Steel movie just sounds worse and worse and worse.
It does. I mean, every time I read about it, every time somebody mentions something like you were telling, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I don't want to go see that. But I think that Fox and Sony are looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're going into panic mode. They're like, we've got to be able to create movies that are competitive.
Me too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because right now Sony and Fox are dealing with everyone's like, no, just give it to Marvel, just give it back to Marvel, just give it back to Marvel, just give it back to, and they're like, no, it's ours, it's ours. We can make a good movie, I swear.
And here's what I think. I think they could still they have to be able to make some arrangement where they can still make money off of X-Men centric movies and Spider-Man centric movies, but still give the property back to Marvel to use in the Avengers movies, and maybe make a percentage. Like maybe say, hey, 10%
it's all business
in
stuff, because
Spider-Man's
what it comes
yours.
down to is both companies want all of that $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it all
That's
comes down
basically
to.
it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then it also becomes a problem of this, though. Okay, look at it this way. We have an Avengers movie. You cram Spider-Man into that, Spider-Man's going to get minimal time. He's not going to get very much, just like every other Avenger. The Avenger movie's great,
right?
But nobody got core spotlight on that movie. How much are they going to pay Spider-Man to use this? I mean, Sony to use Spider-Man. Hey, we want to use him for 3 scenes. Okay, that'll be $50 million. What?
I mean, Spider-Man's a flagship character for Marvel. Like he's a major Marvel character.
Yeah,
he's
and
not
they're trying to make Nova the
powerful,
new
but
one. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Hold on, what now?
Since Sony won't give it back to them, Nova is popping up everywhere with Spider-Man. They're trying to make Kid Nova the new I'm a angsty teen character.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the comics.
Yeah, no. They're pushing Nova to make him as popular as Spider-Man to get him into everything. Because since Sony won't give it back, they're like, well, screw it. We'll just make another big character.
Okay. I thought you were saying like in the films they're trying to get Nova into the movies. I was like, when did this become announced?
Yeah.
Like I've never heard this.
No, I guarantee. This is my speculation, but I guarantee you, after Avengers 2, we're gonna start to see Nova Corps.
After Guardians of the Galaxy.
If Guardians of the Galaxy does well, because Nova's being integrated into so much comic book and TV show lore, they're going to start. Guardians of the Galaxy does well. We're probably going to see a Nova helmet. That's my speculation. We're going to see a Nova helmet in the movie. And Guardians of the Galaxy 2 will be intertied with a Nova-centric movie, which will then wrap around into Avengers 3 is what I'm thinking.
Now, here's
I
a question.
see this happening since they've set up the whole Infinity Gauntlet type hinting going on in Marvel Universe,
integrated
with the Collector and Thanos showing up.
Yep.
I can see X-Men going in the direction of Age of Apocalypse. I can see the Marvel Cinematic Universe going toward Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet towards the end of Phase 3. And I also see the Sinister Six coming up at around the same time in Spider-Man. If they do that setup right.
Yeah, they're all trying to set it all up for that. But
So
I mean,
they're starting
what
to set
Marvel's
up
doing is this,
huge,
and I can tell you,
crossovers.
this is what they're doing. Marvel can't have X-Men. Marvel can't have Spider-Man. So okay, we have the Avengers, but they have a massive universe of characters. Who else can we use that no one owns the rights to? Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Why do you think Guardians of the Galaxy, they're pushing it so hardcore? They picked an obscure character, and they're going to try to basically put them on the level of like X-Men and stuff like that. To basically be like, look, Fox, we don't need it, so screw you.
Well, here's the thing too. Like, and I was reading about this the other day because I'm gonna bring back Adam Warlock. I'm gonna bring Adam Warlock back into the discussion.
Real quick, look at it this way. Okay, they can't have Wolverine, right?
Yeah.
We still have Draken. We still have X-23. Do not even try and tell me that if we did Guardians of the Galaxy and then we introduced Miracles and Avengers 2, they could not bring in X-23 and it would be like they basically make her a real character finally, and it would just Wolverine with boobs, guys. What do you think? You know?
Dude, let me tell you something, man. If X-23 pops up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, people are going to look at that and say it's just their attempt to try to get Wolverine. I'm not going to complain.
No,
X-23 was cool, but I'm just saying.
And Scarlet Witch are miracles. You know, you could easily have X-23, leave her past vague. She's not, I mean, there's probably like a legal battle right now, but she's not really an X-Men. She's not really an Avenger. She's always been kind of a separate entity that gets shoehorned, because she's such an underdeveloped character, she gets shoehorned into everything. She's had her own comic, she's been on every team, she just gets shoehorned all over the place. You know, and you could, if you developed her, we would have Wolverine with boobs.
No, we lost Rob.
Oh, completely? Oh, we did completely
Yeah.
Rob.
He dropped.
So how are you, David? You good?
Pretty good.
Okay, my Skype just crashed.
Oh, no,
on me.
we're good. We're having our own conversation here. What do you think about Wolverine with boobs, David?
Wolverine with boobs would be cool. I don't really know much about X-23 yet, but
She's basically a clone of Wolverine, and it literally was Marvel's attempt to go, hey, if Wolverine's so popular, why don't we give him boobs? And so they made a clone. That's really what the whole core of the whole thing was. But my argument is, if we can't get Spider-Man, push Nova. They're trying to get Nova into the Ultimate Universe. They're trying to get Nova into the core universe. That's why he's all over Original Sin.
Well,
they're trying to push him like crazy. They're pushing Guardians of the Galaxy instead of the X-Men. And if you guys want Wolverine, give us X-23. Or if you want to go all broody guy type, give us Draken.
You can tell that Marvel's trying to go, like, either interdimensional or out into space with their film franchise.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I hate to say it, Rob, because you love the X-Men, but on a movie level, tell me right now who you think is going to do a better movie. Guardians of the Galaxy or the X-Men Apocalypse movie?
All right, it depends on how they do it, man. I mean, it really depends. If Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be like a silly and comedic film with some interjections,
it looks like it has silly and comedic characters. We still
see
have,
exactly that's what I'm talking about. Like,
but
I mean,
so does the X-Men. Quicksilver did not crack jokes.
Yeah,
it does. But I mean, but look at Peter Quill. All right, Star-Lord was never, like, for the most part, a super serious character. He would crack jokes all the time, you know. But when he had it where it counted. When it came down to it, like, he knew what needed to be done. But like Rocket Raccoon was like the serious, you know, dyed in the wool, you know, go balls to the wall kind of thing. Like, there's actually a really cool point in the Thanos Imperative where once they find Thanos and he's just like freaking out, he's mindless and kind of going crazy. Rocket Raccoon tells him that if he keeps doing what he's doing, they're going to drop him into a gravity well. Well, he'll have to live for all eternity. Like, he just won't be able to die. And he's like, that'll be your punishment, eternal life. Right. And so, like, for him, it's torture. But there's some really, really cool points in the comics when Rocket Raccoon is like a super serious guy and knows how to get stuff done. So it depends on how they write it. If it's a silly movie and it's just kind of funny, and, you know, and it's like the Jar Jar Binks of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yeah, people will hate it and it'll be absolute trash.
People think we're going to get that with Ant-Man because of the new director they just let go. But that's another argument.
Oh my god, I can't believe they did that.
Rocket Raccoon in the trailer, at least, in every shot in the trailer that he's in, he looks serious.
Yeah.
Like, he's not
even in the latest comic book, he's been captured and they're going to dissect him and he's freaking out. That happens in the latest Guardians of the Galaxy.
I mean, Rocket Raccoon, I describe him to Benny this way. Rocket Raccoon is like Joe Pesci from Goodfellas. Like, he's hardcore. Yeah, I mean, Joe Pesci.
They picked one of the most cuddly looking characters and made him the most hardcore of the group. Him and
They did.
Gamora are the hardest core out of the two of them.
Oh, Gamora. Oh, my God,
Yeah.
man. I am so glad we're seeing Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy. The universe's best assassin. I am so happy to see her popping up because she's such a great and dynamic character. Like during the what was it? The Annihilation storyline, I think, when the Phalanx and the Kree were at war with each other. Like, she was part of the Phalanx, and she was hunting down Richard Rider. Like, you know, and eventually, like, made Richard Rider part of the Phalanx. Like, she was a great character. Like, she's got some great stories. And even now, in Original Sin, like, I don't know if you're at that point yet. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but she's part of the Original Sin storyline now.
No,
like
I
her
haven't read
and,
3. We're supposed to end this discussion and go to that.
We are. Okay. So
okay,
let's,
wait. I'm going to teach you, Rob, the ways. You have to segue. So that's a great segue. So you got to be like, you know, I don't know if you read Original Sin 3. Gamora is great in Original. Oh, you haven't? Well, let's talk about Original Sin 3.
let's talk about Original Sin 3.
You had a great segue. You don't just cut it. You just keep going.
All right, so there are some big reveals in Original Sin 3. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 of them. All right, the first one, what we see is like Bucky Barnes and Gamora and Moon Knight are basically on this like interstellar travel trying to figure out what in the heck is going on.
Okay.
They eventually come across like a trail of bullets in space. And when they track the trail of bullets, they land on some kind of a planet or something like that, and they're trying to figure out what in the heck is going on, and they realize that the planet is like another sentient version of Ego, the living planet, and it's been killed by somebody. Like, they killed the planet. So
Can't wait to go
they're
pick that
trying.
up when we get done here.
Yeah, so they're trying to figure out what in the heck is going on. You know, what in the world is going on here? From what I can tell in this storyline, and you may have already revealed this to me already and told me about it, but from what I can tell in this, the entire basis of the Original Sin event is that the eyes of the Watcher give you information. Like, they basically remove anything that you didn't know about your life.
Yes.
So everything that's ever happened to you, ever happened to anything that led up to you being where you are, you know about it. And what's really kind of interesting here is that the eye is like the orb uses the powers on like the Incredible Hulk, and so the Incredible Hulk for some reason has this desire to kill Tony Stark that may or may not have been revealed to us yet. It may have been that the Incredible Hulk was forced to forget the events of World War Hulk, so he's really pissed off at him because the Illuminati shot him into space. I mean, they haven't revealed that kind of stuff to us yet, but
Did you
they
read
use
Mighty
it.
Avengers yet? Because I read all the tie-ins. I just haven't read the issue.
I haven't read Mighty Avengers issue number 10 yet.
Okay. The
Now,
one
are you
that
talking
I
about
told
Mighty
you to
Avengers?
read that I said has got a really screw you ending, and you're like, ah.
Okay, Avengers issue number 29. I think I read that, but I don't remember how that.
That
how
was
does
the
that
one.
end?
That was the one where we find out that Captain America gets his memories back of the Illuminati.
Oh yeah.
There's another one. I believe it's Mighty Avengers number 9 or 10. I have it somewhere.
Mighty Avengers number 10. Yeah.
And it's about Doctor Strange. Not Doctor Strange. It's what's his name? I don't even know his name. He's some random guy that I don't follow.
Yeah, he's Blue something or other. I can't remember his name.
Right.
But,
Well, in that one, it's revealed that because everyone's trying to solve the mystery of the Watcher, we're gonna get the Watcher back. The Watcher had a son.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I saw that. That's right. Yeah, it was his wife or something like that, and
which more humanizes our cosmic entity. Okay, great.
she made what's his name the Godfather for
right. And
for
he's
the
all
son.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I will teach you the universe." Ah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. What?
So.
I just saw it there. Oh god, pit stance.
So following all that stuff, like the planet's been destroyed. Nick Fury has like the orb used the eye on Nick Fury, but Nick Fury doesn't know anything that he didn't know before. So that's really interesting. Like that, I thought was something kind of intriguing. So I'm curious, like what's going on with Nick Fury? But
always knows everything.
he does. But by the end of the comic, it doesn't really.
Nick Fury had a backup plan in case Ultron came back from the future and conquered us.
He was hiding out in a bunker.
How do you have that planned?
He was hiding out in a bunker, waiting for the combined forces of what was left of the Avengers,
exactly,
and Captain America, and maybe some X-Men to find him.
If you did not think he knew everything before then, that moment I was like, yeah, he's a cosmic entity.
Okay, so at this point, what Nick Fury thinks doesn't really matter, and the reason why is because it turns out that Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, is one of the people who is part of the Original Sin thing. So he's going on with like biblical verses and stuff like that. He leaves Moon Knight and Gamora trapped on the planet after destroying the ship, teleports back to where Nick Fury's at, and cuts off his head. So yeah.
Wait, cuts off Nick Fury's head?
He cuts off Nick Fury's head. He shoots him and then cuts off his head.
I thought Nick Fury couldn't die.
He cut his head off. I mean, Nick Fury can be killed by conventional means. He's just ageless because of that formula that he takes.
Oh,
But yeah, he just doesn't age very long.
Oof.
But yeah, he cut his head off. So that's kind of where we're at now. Like he chopped off his head. So that's why I say it may or may not happen. But I really hope, I am really hoping that Original Sin leads to a reformation of the Universal Church of Truth and the Magus, because that would be so awesome. Because
if you said Mad Jim Jaspers again, I was
no, not
internet
Jim
slap.
not Mad
Benny's
Jim
like,
Jaspers.
I'm gonna have to look into this guy.
Yeah, Magus sounds
Don't make me
interesting.
look into this guy.
Mad Jim Jaspers.
But yeah, like
did you read
I
the
really,
Deadpool tie-in though?
Yeah, okay. I
I
skimmed
was
the Deadpool
so
tie-in.
disappointed in that because the whole issue had nothing to do with the original Sin, except Black Robot Lady finds out that Deadpool's daughter is still alive. But Deadpool is so far away from her at that point that she can't even tell him.
Yeah, he's hanging out with that chick that he married. So like to me, it was
Oh yeah,
kind
and
of
for
like
the record, David, if you haven't been following Deadpool, by the way, about 2 issues ago, completely out of the blue, he married like the daughter of the devil.
yeah,
Because she's cool.
and they're holed up in his shitty ass apartment.
Yep.
That's all like
She's
it's a
digging
total
it.
wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been
It's
wanting
really
to pick up some of the newer Deadpool stuff.
yeah.
Still wondering where
you know,
this is gonna go, but
That's the thing about Deadpool. Deadpool is a character. I love Deadpool when he's interacting with other people. I hate Deadpool's solo series. It drives me nuts. Like he's
Well,
just really annoying.
It's just like crazy and all over the place.
Yeah.
And,
It is. It is.
I mean,
Well,
it's
they-
really
they
supposed to be
actually-
like comedy relief.
on a completely separate note, because I guess we're segueing from Deadpool Original Sin to Deadpool, but I liked the direction they were taking Deadpool. They got rid of the secondary voice in his head. They were giving him more of a realistic, grounded background. We found out more about him and the fact that he did have a daughter and a wife and all this other stuff. And then like immediately after having all of this really good character development and building Deadpool in a good direction, they're like, oh, by the way, he just got married and now we're going on crazy honeymoon adventures. It's like,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what. See, here's the problem.
can you make up your mind? Is he serious or are we just gonna do stupid crazy shit?
Here's a problem with Deadpool. Deadpool's character was best when he was wacky and zany and did crazy things, but he was part of a linear storyline. It was going
like
somewhere.
when he was in X Factor.
know?
When
Exactly.
he did the X Factor and they had to go kill the Apocalypse clone guy. That was great. You know,
I mean, okay, now that was something that really. All right, so let's talk about that for a second. So Apocalypse. All right, I'm actually really curious about what they're going to do with him, because right now he's a little kid, but he's showing signs that he is going to become the Apocalypse from X Factor, the Apocalypse he was before he was reincarnated as a little kid.
dude, there's an entire 50-issue run about what they're gonna do with him.
So
Oh, see, I wasn't aware. Like, I knew that there were like
The
there
X
were views
Factor,
that-
like 1 through 50, is all what are they gonna do with it when it was before they rebooted it again.
Okay, but all right. As I understand it, right now, he was reborn as a little kid. They killed him, and then he's back again, and he's part of the Xavier Institute. But I thought that there were basically points where people had looked into his future and saw that it's
Okay.
entirely possible he could become this kind of dark, screwed up character like it was before.
The entire Wolverine and Deadpool X Factor run, with Phantom X and all them, is yes, they killed him. They decided that they didn't like what they did. Actually, it was Deadpool who didn't like what he did because he got really connected to the character. They go through. It's a time travel adventure. Basically, they kill him off. They go to the future, find out the future wasn't what they wanted it to be because of this. They go back in time. They stop themselves from killing him. Then the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants kidnaps the kid, and they try to turn him back into Apocalypse by telling him that
Yeah.
Wolverine killed you and don't trust them, and they're just going to do it again. Because basically,
Yeah,
they go
I
back,
remember that.
revert everything, and then they're like, maybe we should have done it. It's still the kid's still going to be Apocalypse. The issues kept stretching out, and it ends with they've decided to, if they teach the kid properly, he's not going to become Apocalypse. He can still do it, but we have an opportunity to teach him properly to not be Apocalypse.
See, I don't like that. I want to see him become Apocalypse, man. I want to see Apocalypse come back.
What blows my mind, though, is one of the best endings to that thing was Deadpool being remorseful of the fact that he had killed the kid. Because it was Deadpool. Deadpool made the actual kill, and he didn't like the fact that he killed a kid who was innocent and was not Apocalypse.
No, I thought it wasn't Deadpool. I thought Deadpool was the one that refused to do it. And it was somebody else that killed him instead. I can't remember his name.
No, I could have sworn it was Deadpool because that was part of his thing in the ending. Because I remember, I mean, guy, for everybody who's we're off, that was like a 50-issue run. So for the record, I read it when it launched. I didn't read it like last week in a trade. So But as far as I can remember, the ending, he's actually getting tortured, and he's like happy because he feels like this is his redemption, like his punishment for what he did to the kid.
Okay.
And then the Brotherhood of the Mutants are like, look, use your Apocalypse powers and just finish off Deadpool. And Deadpool's like, look, it's okay if you do it. I get it. You know, I deserve this. And then the kid saves Deadpool, and they have like a whole moment, and they get off there. And then after that, Deadpool goes off and gets married. It's like, forget the kid.
Okay.
Deadpool.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that like Kid Apocalypse is basically like an X-Men character, or now he's tied into the X-Men comics now. So he's going on with the X-Men and the Xavier Institute and all that kind of stuff. And they're trying to guide him to make sure he doesn't become
and then that's where the story got left off. And Deadpool was part of Deadpool getting. See, that's what I don't like about Deadpool. He goes through these great character arcs and gets great development and becomes a real character. And then he goes on a crazy adventure killing the dead presidents who turned into zombies. And then he comes back and has a crazy character development. Oh, by the way, he had a kid, and he's remorseful for what happened, and they're using his powers to do da-da-da-da-da-da. And, now we're going to go get married to the daughter of Satan. You know?
See, that's why I say, like, I like Deadpool better when he is part of a major storyline, when it's not a solo series, because a solo series it's like reading an acid trip on comics, you know. But
well, it seriously looks like they sit down and go serious story, stupid story, serious story, stupid story. Oh, did we just do serious one? Okay, we're gonna do stupid.
I don't know what they do. They just like do a roll of the dice and just whatever happens.
I think maybe they're trying to appeal to the Deadpool fans from like the Wade runs and everything, where he was just super crazy, and then they have to put him in serious situations because they've put him in serious situations before.
They need to go back to at least having 2 Deadpool comics. We kind of do because it always pops up in a miniseries, but we need to have the serious run Deadpool, because even when he was on Thunderbolts, it was horrible. We need to have a serious run Deadpool on real adventures, and then just the over-the-top crazy zany one. Give us both. Call it good. You could even make them interlinked. But if you have both stories running concurrently, like, oh yeah, he had to go stop the end of the world from happening with Wolverine, and then he went on a crazy adventure. But that's in this comic, and if you don't care about it, don't read it. You know? Yeah.
And the continuity stays the same,
Right, yeah.
I agree with that.
And then you could even refer to each other, you know, oh, but Deadpool, I heard you were just a pirate with your parrot buddy over on the Caribbean islands. Oh, yeah, I was, but now we're going to go stop Apocalypse. You know.
What they could do is they could have that all what's going on in his head.
They got rid of that. They actually said that the second voice in his head, the crazy voice, was actually a crazy guy with a healing factor. And what happened was when Deadpool, he got in a fight with them, and somebody chopped them both up like a blender, and they merged into one person. And then they actually had a comic where he separates from the guy again. So the crazy voice is off on his own.
Yeah, I don't. Deadpool is just a character that I mean, my subscribers really wanted to see a Deadpool video, so I was like, okay, I'll do a Deadpool video. But I was like, I'm not a big fan of Deadpool.
I've read like almost everything on Deadpool at this point. I have every trade for his run following Secret Invasion, where you find out that Deadpool's the one that actually stopped it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. So here's ultimately the question. Here's what I really want to know with regards to what they're going to do with the whole Original Sin event.
Yeah, back to Original Sin.
Yeah, back to Original Sin.
Hell of a segue and tangent right there.
So where's it all leading to? Because I have a very hard time believing that the Orb is the big guy behind all this. And we still don't know where the second eye is. That's the question that Nick Fury dies asking, is where's the second eye? Like, he's sitting there trying to figure it out, you know, where the second eye go. And that's the question. Like, one of my subscribers made a really good point and said they think that there's like a bigger hand here, that the Orb is a tool being used by somebody else.
And I agree. And I think that Original Sin is going to end shitty. I don't think we're going to get any core answers. I think they're going to give us a big reveal, and it's going to jump right into Axis. Because Axis is kind of lined up to be starting up right at the end of Original Sin. I feel like Original Sin is just going to set up the next event. We're going to find out who's behind the scenes, how he got all the information. Nick Fury is going to be revived or something like that. Everyone's going to resolve their sins, and now we're doing Axis.
Well, it depends on what happens in Axis 2. Like, I mean, we know that Wolverine will die, but we don't really know much more than that in terms of the Axis storyline. So here's the thing. Like, I mean, because if you remember, like with the House of M, you had House of M, everybody lost their powers, blah, blah, blah.
Kill him. I'm just saying.
I mean, that could be, but you had House of M, and then you had Decimation, and then you had the Messiah Complex, and then you had the Messiah War. And then you had the 12 Lights, and then you had like all these events going on that were concurrent. They might be doing the same thing they might have like a multi-series event with this crossover that I have no idea what the end result is. I don't know what their end intention is, because with the end of the end of House of M, we saw pretty much all the mutants gone, so they basically rebooted the entire mutant aspect.
I don't
of
think
Marvel
we're gonna do any
Comics.
reboots. I don't foresee that kind of thing happen. They've already done Marvel now. We already have a new #1 every other week with somebody new. Who was it this week? Did you see it in the comic book store?
But see, here's the thing though. Like the Marvel Now event, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really care for it too much. I don't like seeing a reboot of the X-Men. I don't like seeing, and so if
I don't. You know what? Actually, I'm on the flip side of this because DC's now doing the same thing, and I kind of see where everyone's coming from. Because David, you're our new comic book reader. Okay, I bring you to the comic book store right now, and you're like, I like X-Men. I want to read X-Men, and I'm like, all right, well, here's X-Men 529. And you're gonna be like, I'm like, but it's a really good story.
All these characters?
Yeah, you should totally read it. Or you can walk in and we go, hey, look, there's the all-new X-Men #1.
Yeah.
You're almost guaranteed that this is a brand new plot that you can follow. Because DC's doing that now. They've stopped a lot of their concurrent books. They ended Suicide Squad, they ended Teen Titans. And literally, with only like a month break, we're gonna get Teen Titans #1 and the new Suicide Squad. And
it was really
but people are going to jump on that because you're going to see a brand new plot line. You're like, oh, it's a #1. It's a totally new start. Even though, dude, the Teen Titans pisses me off. We ended at a 31, and that story just got worse and worse and worse, and it ended finally. And they're like, now we're doing the new one, and it's pretty much the same team.
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of about time that Marvel rebooted some stuff too, because like by the time we got around to Civil War in 2006, whenever that was, like we were on Spider-Man Volume 2, issue number 500 and such.
Yeah.
Like it was time to go ahead and give Spider-Man his own.
Are they all new? Like, is it all new origin stories then?
No. Basically, what they're doing, Marvel Now is, and DC's now going in. And now DC did the original reboot. They started New 52 before Marvel Now, and they did all new origin stories and everything.
Yeah.
But now what everyone's doing is they're starting everything up at #1, and it's no origin stories. It's a new plot. Go check it out. You can start at #1.
Basically, yeah. You could start with all new X-Men issue #1, having never read any of the previous X-Men comics, and be able to go from there, because what you're going to see is the original X-Men team.
Yep.
You're going to see Jean Grey as Marvel Girl. You're going to see Cyclops. You're going to see Iceman, Bobby Drake. You're going to see the Beast, and you're going to see Archangel. That's the original X-Men lineup, and you're going to see them in all new X-Men. Now the stories will be different. They won't be the same way they were in the original X-Men lineup.
Right, but you can jump into those plots, and you're like, oh, it's safe. I can start from #1.
Exactly.
I think I appreciate that more than what DC did. Because what DC did was they basically said, all this old stuff that came out in the last 30 years is no longer relevant.
But see, what DC did... here's the thing. All new X-Men still references stuff that's happening. What DC did, you literally could go grab every #1 and you aren't missing anything.
Right.
Yeah.
You're literally at the beginning of everything. Now, that actually leads to the next potential reboot. I think we've covered most of Original Sin, and this goes to Future's End. Future's End is our DC event. Now, what Future's End is, because I doubt you guys are reading it, it's a weekly book that is coming out, and it's explaining what is happening 5 years from now. 5 years from now, we've been invaded by Earth 2. There was a war that happened. Half the superheroes died. Brother Eye and OMAC came back. And Batman Beyond is all the way at the end of the entire timeline, and literally everybody's dead. So Bruce Wayne sends Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond back in time to put the timeline back on track. But instead of going to current nowadays DC, which is where he was supposed to go, he ended up at the Future's End, which is 5 years ahead of us. So we see a lot of interest. Like the first issue, Green Arrow dies.
Huh.
Because Firestorm couldn't save him. And a lot of things like that are happening. And this actually brings me to a reboot. There's a huge discussion that in April, DC is going to jump, because apparently they've put out all DC storylines will end in April. And they're going, and what the assumption is right now is that it's conveniently the end of Future's End. And we're going to jump 5 years to how Future's End ended.
Wow.
So they're going to just fill in the middle at that point?
Well, that's kind of what they did with New 52. New 52 launched, and when New 52 launched, they were like, it's a fresh reboot. But a lot of stuff happened in the last 5 years. A lot of your favorite events still happened. Yeah. But it was over the course of 5 years. And over the course of this 3 years, we've been finding out what happened in that 5 year gap. At what point did Blackest Night happen? At what point did Superman introduce himself to the world? When did Wonder Woman show up? And I kind of think they're going to do that again. They're going to get to April and they're going to jump 5 years to the end of this event, and then they're going to fill in the gaps again. And we're going to find out, the DC's got a big mystery again. We need to know what happened, Batman will have Robin number 8. Well, how did that happen? The Flash will have Wally West instead. How did that happen? And they'll start, because what they did was every year in September, they do a 52 issue event. And like it was the 0 year. We explained what happened year 1. And then it was the following year, it was first it was the 0 year, then it was something else, and then it was the villains. We found out all the villain histories. And they've filled the gaps in with these big multi-issue events.
Yeah.
So they might be doing that again with Future's End.
All right. So a couple days ago, I think, Benny asked a really good question because you're talking about time travel in your comic. And Benny thought a really cool discussion is what's the thought of time travel in comic books? Or, I'm sorry, not Benny. Dave asked that question. What was the thought about time travel in comic books? And I've actually,
it'll break everything.
I've been thinking about that.
But don't do it until you need to, Wolverine. I mean, everybody else.
Well, it's just like a reset button.
Yeah, it is.
Is what I look at it as. It's a way to basically go back and say, oh, well, this event that didn't work out or fans didn't like, didn't happen.
It's always been that way. It has always been a big reset button. DC uses it as the crisis, as we call them, the infinite crisis, the final crisis, and they just reset everything with time travel or a multiverse collision. Either one of those happens.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel likes to do Age of Ultron. We fucked everything up. Let's go back in time and fix it. They just time travel corrects everything.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not a big fan of time travel, because I feel like it takes away from the writers having to write good stories that actually go somewhere. Because let's say, for example, you have this whole original sin event, and let's say that at the end of this original sin event, that everybody knows everything that ever happened to them, and somehow they all end up just progressively going more insane.
If we go back in time at end of original sin, I give up.
Yeah, and the entire Marvel universe descends into like total chaos, where everybody's killing everybody else for sins that were committed in the past or whatever, and then Tony Stark or somebody like that's like, well, we can fix this by going back into the past, and Reed Richards sends them into the past. That kind of thing that's the problem. When writers don't have the ability to send characters into the past to fix things, then that means that they have to introduce the beginning of a story, they have to fill the story with a compelling event, and then they have to bring it to an end in a way that still leaves the entire continuity intact. And that's very difficult to do when you have time travel.
And I think that's why Age of Ultron didn't do well. Because Age of Ultron issue 2, Wolverine goes back in time, you're like, okay, I know how this is going to end. He's going to
exactly.
He's going to correct
it takes away all the fun,
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm worried about with Future's End. And we've seen the end of the universe. They've now gone back in time. They're going to correct things. Things are going to go to hell in a handbag. We got Anti-Monitor here, which implies we might be getting another Infinite Crisis / Final Crisis. We've got the time travel. Supposedly we're going to jump 5 years in the future, but what the hell is that going to do? There's so many time travel situations. And a matter of fact, that's exactly what happened. That is what they did in DC. Oh, we've really made everything convoluted and nobody wants to read our books anymore. Hey, Flash, go back in time and fix everything. New universe.
Yeah, that's just that. It's one of the things that really irks me because, like I said, it takes away from a compelling story because the writers at the end of the day are always like, well, if it doesn't work out, we can just send somebody in the past and fix it, and that's it. Done and done.
And if you notice that each universe seems to have its time travel guy.
Yeah. Every single universe that you come across.
Well, like in DC, it's always the Flash. If it's a time travel event, the Flash is involved. And in Marvel, even though it makes no sense, Wolverine's always involved.
So yeah, it
Give
depends
me
on how
another character in Marvel who has time traveled more than Wolverine. And the entire Fantastic Four team doesn't count because that's like a weekend jaunt for them. Hey, we're gonna go check out dinosaurs.
Okay, like Bishop or Cable.
I don't know because they've just kind of gone backwards.
They time travel all the
Cable,
time. You just don't see it all the time.
Yeah, Cable does. Bishop, I don't think he only jumps when needed. Cable does like a weekend vacation. Oh, I'm just gonna check out the Bahamas when they were nice.
Well, see, with Bishop, Bishop's character was really kind of cool because if you guys remember, Bishop jumped back into the past when he was first introduced in X-Men, and then he was part of the X-Men. He stayed with the X-Men for quite some time. He was part of the X-Men run. Now, in the Messiah stories, Messiah Complex, Messiah Wars, him and Cable and Hope Summers are doing like this cat and mouse game. Like you've got Cable and Hope Summers progressively jumping to different locations throughout time, and Bishop is chasing them, trying to kill Hope Summers. So that aspect of time travel, I think, is cool because it's not there to fix anything. It's simply just there to provide a compelling story, and it really was.
Oh yeah,
it
it's
was
just there
really
for
cool.
a background environment. You know,
Yeah.
instead of being at the X Mansion for this entire discussion, we're going through time, and that's cool. I mean, I'm more referring to we always have our time fixer guy. Wolverine is our time fixer guy. They always just they always come with an excuse, and normally it's because Wolverine will survive anything. Send him back in time.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's why when it comes to time travel, it could be a great tool.
Who's gonna go back in time?
I mean, with time travel, it's a great tool to move a story forward, but the problem is when it's abused. I mean, like I was telling Dave earlier about the further adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix. That gives you the entire backstory of Sinister, and Cyclops and Phoenix end up in the past with Sinister. So you see when Apocalypse first approaches Nathaniel Essex, and he grants them all kinds of powers. Says, "I will give you whatever you want," so on and so forth, and he turns them into Sinister. You see like all these really cool stories going on, but it's not time travel is not used to fix things. Time travel is used as a means to really just kind of explain a compelling story. Right. And so in that aspect, I don't have a problem with time travel when it's used that way. I have a problem with time travel, like Benny said, when they say, well, the story's kind of out of control, things are really convoluted, nobody can keep up, so let's just send somebody into the past and fix it.
So
that's really kind of a waste.
Is, I mean, you don't like what they did for the New 52 reboot. How do you feel about, and we can close out this discussion after this because of how long time's going on and kind of moving on, but how do you feel about what they're supposed? I mean, this is all speculation right now, but what DC's doing now, where we're going to jump 5 years. We're not correcting anything. We're going to go ahead, and then we're going to tell you what you missed.
See, that's not something that I'm upset about. Like it's like a comparable example was like Age of Ultron. Like Nick Fury and them jumped into the future. All right, so they could try to destroy Ultron. I mean, technically it would have changed the past, but it was cool because it didn't matter because they all ended up dying anyway. But right. If I understand what you're saying with what they're doing with the whole Futures End, like we're going to have, we start out in the past, they jump 5 years in the future and they show us the future, and then we're going to cover the past 5 years over the course of however long this goes on for.
Right, well, what they're going to do is supposedly when this event ends in April, all comics are going to move forward from the 5 year jump.
Okay.
And then we're going to have special events that explain what you missed. Like, there's going to be a bunch of mysteries that come up. Like, how did this happen? Why is this going on? And
see, to me, that's cool. Because I think that people always like to see some kind of like dystopian future when it comes to comic books. It just seems cool. Mm-hmm. Or to just see like future events and then say what happened back then. Like I think people have that natural curiosity. Like, okay, for example, like it's totally off topic from comics, but I downloaded, or I didn't download, I legally attained a copy of Aliens, the director's cut.
Oh, did you?
And I did.
The local Best Buy?
Yes, it's a legally obtained copy.
It was on sale for free.
For a really low price. It was close to $0, as close as you can get to $0. And I was watching the whole thing go down. But nonetheless, they arrive at Hadley's Hope, the place on LV 426, and the whole place is totally ruined and totally destroyed for the most part, and no one really knows what in the heck happened. But people always want to know. They're like, what actually took place at Hadley's Hope? If they released a movie and they said, here's what happened at Hadley's Hope, people would buy it and they would want to see it because you have the events of Alien where Ripley leaves the planet more or less, escapes in her ship. Then you have Aliens, where it's 30 years later or whatever it is, and people are living on LV-426, and now they're all dead, and everybody wants to know what happened in between. To me, with this whole Futures End thing in DC, it's a lot of the same way. You're going to have this event that ended with the whole New 52, the Forever Evil storyline, and they basically rebooted everything. And then they jump forward 5 years, and they say, now here's what things are going to look like in 5 years. Now people want to know what happened over the course of that 5 years.
That's exactly what's happening right now with the weekly book. The Forever Evil, the Futures End has a weekly book right now, and supposedly the weekly book is going to end when the events in the main book kind of get more current with that. Is what's going to happen. It's kind of weird the way they're doing it. But they're already giving you mysteries. There's a lot of boring crap going on in that weekly book, but one big mystery going on is supposedly Red Robin died. Tim Drake died again, or not again. Tim Drake didn't. Jason Todd did, but Tim Drake died, but he didn't die. The papers and everything in the Futures End event say that he died, and he actually just retired because he had a falling out with Batman and is apparently a bartender. And he keeps implying that there was some major thing that happened between him and Batman, but we haven't figured out what it is yet. As a matter of fact, I don't think we've seen Batman in the Futures End story yet. We don't even know what he looks like.
But that conflict would be something that'll be explained, but that went on between the 5 years of
Yeah,
the beginning of Futures
What
End.
happened in this 5
years in the
years that
future.
Tim Drake died but didn't die, and basically is hiding out as a bartender.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the effort to progress our podcast forward, all right. So give me the rundown on what you think about what's going on with the new Supergirl, because I don't really know anything about what's going on with her.
This is the live history lesson on your heroes. Last week we did the Orb. This week is going to be a DC character, and I'm going to cover Supergirl. Now, the reason I'm covering Supergirl is because she's going through finally a major change. Supergirl in general. Let me see if I got, Okay.
Knocking stuff over.
I am knocking stuff over. So Supergirl this time around actually came up as interesting. Supergirl in the New 52, the story is that she has been orbiting the sun the whole time, and this has overcharged her, supposedly more powerful than Superman. She shows up, she can't speak English. She's a 17-year-old girl, can't speak English, and has more power than Superman. Knocks him around the world, and at first it's an interesting storyline because you have this alien on the planet. It's an alien out of water storyline. It's not a alien trying to blend in with us. It's a what the hell happened? Where's Krypton? How do I get home? And they dragged that story out for like 25 issues. Like at first it was really cool. Then it was now she's whining. Then it was wow, she's just an angry teenager. And that's, I don't know if this was intended eventually, but here's where the interesting part comes in. Supergirl, as it turns out, she is the same thing. Kal-El is now older than her. Superman's older than her. She's still his cousin. She was babysitting him. She's only 17. She has more power than him, and she can't control it because she didn't learn how to use it. And she can't speak English. I think by now she's kind of picked up on it, but when the first 20 issues, she was always speaking Kryptonian. So only Kal-El could even speak to her.
Okay.
What they've done with her now is her rage of her planet being destroyed. She had to kill her love. She fell in love with Hell. She had to kill him off. The fact that no one understands her. Everyone's trying to kill her because they don't understand her Earth. So they always try to pick fights with her, like the army and everything. Get out of Metropolis, that kind of thing. We also have the red rings in the universe, and a red ring will go out and seek someone filled with great rage. Well, they've been building up her to the point where, she got so mad she punched Lobo in half. Like, punched him and he broke.
Wow.
Basically, like she was finally coming to terms with everything, the plotline just before this, and she went up to this little space station thing that her and Superman hang out on. Lobo shows up to do something there, and Lobo's like, look, I'm the last of my race, you're the last of your race, we should talk, I can help you out, I can tell you, I know what you're going through. And she's like, you don't know anything! And boom! Punches him like through a bunch of crap, breaks his limbs off, he's destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
And then she flees from that because she just punched Lobo into pieces. He recovers. He's fine.
Yeah. But still, I mean, that was something that not even Superman was able to do, was physically destroy Lobo.
Yeah.
I'm not aware that he was ever able to do that.
No, I don't think Superman ever did that either. The new Lobo is not as strong as the old Lobo, but that's a story for another day. But basically breaks him apart. She leaves because she's just killed a man. He just kind of recovers and goes, oh, wow, that girl sucks.
Yeah.
And a red ring finds her. And a red ring finds somebody who is filled with great rage. And then we have this entire storyline, which started out really good, where Supergirl became a Red Lantern. The ring found her. And the way the Red Lanterns work is all of your rage goes to the surface. You can't even talk when you first get a ring. So
Wow.
you have a insanely overraged Supergirl who now has the powers of a red ring plus her Kryptonian powers, destroying Earth, going nuts. It took everybody to stop her.
Wow.
Okay? And this is where I think it got interesting, because we took what was just an angsty teenager and we did a giant crossover event where she becomes a Red Lantern. And the story, I'm holding all the issues for it right here. I think I'm missing one out of this little batch. But it's a 6-issue storyline about her getting the ring, and then the Red Lanterns can drop you into the red blood, and then you become sane again. And they do that, and she has finally found a place of people who understand her. It's a whole bunch of refugees from planets, people filled with rage, and that the new Supergirl right now is still a Red Lantern. Now, the problem I have with this storyline and where they've gone with this is we've got 30 issues building up her anger and her rage and how much no one understands her, and she's had to kill everybody and be poisoned by kryptonite and all kinds of crazy stuff. And all of it boils down to how angry can we make her? And we finally accumulated, whatever. I can't say the word. We finally accumulated, there you go, into all of that rage, into her getting a ring and now being a Red Lantern and fighting on Guy Gardner's Red Lantern team against Atrocitus and the other Red Lanterns. and apparently she's gonna lose it in two issues.
Lose the ring?
Yeah, like the
She's
ring
not-
can't the
not
ring
pissed
can't
off at
even
anyone?
be can't even be removed without a blue ring, which right now they've been destroyed in Green Lantern lore. But somehow, in issue 34, she loses the ring and goes to help Superman with the doomed infection thing.
I'd be curious to see how they do that.
It's almost like they don't know what to do with Supergirl. And that's kind of what I'm a little issue about here. New 52 Supergirl is just a rage machine, and they don't really seem to know what to do with her other than we've got Superman with boobs. Because they've given her a ring, and once they made her sane again, she just started whining again.
I mean, that's
Now she's like,
I don't,
oh, no one understands me, and now I can't take the ring off, and I'm filled with rage. Maybe I can work with the Red Lanterns. Ah.
I mean, I don't mean to come off, as like as like anti-chick or anything, but like she doesn't really seem to serve a purpose. As best as I can tell, whenever it was that I had read about Supergirl or just kind of looking at Supergirl in general,
because she didn't. See, what a lot of people aren't aware of, and this is something that I've actually recently discovered because I'm doing the research for Jessica Drew. Most of these Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, Supergirl,
Jessica Drew,
they were created for the sole purpose of copyright.
Yeah.
That's
She-Hulk was the exact same way.
They were made because Marvel and DC were worried that if they didn't make these characters, the opposing group would take it.
Yeah.
That was the entirety of their being. And then they discovered, hey, we got boobs. Let's put them in cute outfits and make them go be the sidekicks, basically.
I mean, that was the whole basis for She-Hulk. When the Incredible Hulk TV show was out in the 70s or whenever it was, and it was garnering like a ton of popularity, they just made She-Hulk for the purpose of being able to say she's our character. Right. Like she belongs to us.
And I think that's the problem that we've run into with Supergirl. Supergirl is an amazing character. She's this. Okay, I mean, the history of Supergirl, and especially in the New 52 right now, is she got pushed off the planet just like Kal-El did. But the difference is Kal-El's been on Earth this entire time, learned his powers, learned how to deal with humans. Every storyline of Supergirl is she arrives at 1819.
Yeah.
She orbits the sun, or she got lost in space. Something happened where she wasn't here. Even in Smallville, that's how it happened. And that is the core history of Supergirl. She's always the late person to the party, and now she's supposed to be older than her nephew, or her cousin, but now he's older than her. And instead of being the wise one, she's now just the whiny teenager. And they've always done that with her. Now, there is a bit of a history where she died and then an alien took over her appearance and everything, but they've never really done anything outside of whiny Supergirl. And I'm slightly upset because the whole purpose of this Learn Your Universe stuff we're trying to do right now is I wanted to explain the Red Daughter of Krypton. That's what they're calling this series. And this was finally something that they could do with Supergirl. And I highly recommend this series of books to anybody who wants to kind of learn a little bit about Supergirl.
Yeah.
And my complaint is we're already going to shoot it down. You've finally given her something that's worth some kind of character development outside of, oh my God, no one understands me. I belong in the OC. We're finally going beyond that, and we're going to remove it.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. Here's the question you have to ask. Like, I mean, as far as I can tell, she really seems to be on like demigod power at this point. I mean, she's got the power of the Lantern.
Yep.
And she's got all of her Kryptonian powers.
Yep.
I mean,
they comment on that like every freaking issue.
Yeah,
we've got a Kryptonian with a red ring. Everyone's screwed.
Yeah, I mean that's just like that's stupid powerful.
They're constantly going like, don't piss her off. She can't control it.
I mean it's silly.
Maybe that's why they're removing it, because as much as this does finally develop her character in a good direction, this is an insane amount of power to give her.
I mean, this is like the equivalent of having Emma Frost, who has all of her powers. She's powerful enough to rival Charles Xavier, and she has the same powers as the Incredible Hulk. It's really stupid, and it's just incredibly powerful.
Not only does she have, now she has heat vision, the ability to fly, the ability to superhear, super cold breath. She can punch through Superman. Right? She blew up Lobo with a punch. She's stronger than Superman because of overcharging, okay? Not only is she basically Superman times 2, but now she has a red ring, and a red ring gives you the ability to spew napalm and go in a rage-fueled mass. You can spew napalm that is so strong it will eat a Green Lantern's ring. It will infect his ring.
Wow.
So now she can do that and make constructs, because the Red Lanterns have discovered how to make constructs. So she can make constructs. She can do everything. Basically, she can do everything the Green Lantern can do, everything Superman can do, and spew napalm right now.
Wow. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I think it says something about her character if the only way for them to create her in a compelling way is to make her so wildly overpowerful that she is, that she. There's really no one that can stop her single-handedly, aside from somebody that exists beyond, the simple universe and exists in multiple universes or something like that.
Here, let me show you this one. You got Guy Gardner and Superman trying to stop her.
And it's just not how. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about, man. I mean, it's cool, but I think the thing about when it comes to someone like Supergirl is, and when you look at Marvel, somebody like She-Hulk is a perfect example of three's a crowd. For example, during the World War Hulk storyline, like She-Hulk confronts the Incredible Hulk with everybody else when they're in New York, and New York is Incredible Hulk's in a rage, and she was like, "You need to stop this," and he tells her, he's like, "Go away," and she talks on for like 3 or 4 paragraphs, and he was like, "Now," and she won't leave. And so he just grabs her face and slams it into the ground, and that's that. She is not the Incredible Hulk. She's not nearly as strong, and she really just isn't nearly as important as he is. I mean, Civil War, she's really important. That's it.
I think that's how they started off with the new Supergirl take, though. I mean, because she's always been the backdoor character to Superman. Never as strong, always his cousin, always basically she's like basically a damsel in distress for him. And I think with the new 52 reboot, they decided to give her more power than him, to give her more character. And I don't think that went in the direction they were intending. Yeah. And so now they give her the red ring, but see, they could leave it with her for a while. We have a Kryptonian with a green ring.
Yeah.
We do. Yasmado, whatever. He's been gone forever. He literally just came back. Where is he? Yaz Saddam? Saddam Yacht, I think is it.
Dave, you're looking bored over there, man.
This is kind of out of my league right now.
This is a guy who, Saddam Yacht is basically a guy from the same universe, and I'll link you the image afterwards so you can put it in whatever you want. But he's a guy from the same, like, Milky Way, the galaxy as Superman. And he has all the same powers as Superman, but he gets a Green Lantern ring. Huh. He just got reintroduced into the New 52 universe, so we're going to see where that goes. So it's not unheard of to have someone with so much goddamn power.
Yeah, but that's the problem, is you can't have a person with so much power that rivals virtually all the other superheroes and can fight them all at the same time and have them appear all the time. Like Apocalypse is a perfect example. Apocalypse demonstrated on multiple occasions that he could fight off the combined forces of X-Force, the X-Men, and the Avengers at the same time, like by himself, like all at one time. So, you can't have him appear all the time, because then it would take away from the fun of it. So, I mean, I would hope that Supergirl, would be able to have the Green Lantern, the Lantern ring taken away from her, or to simply lose her abilities and keep the Lantern ring, whatever. But from what you said, they're going to take the ring away from her. So I would like to see her.
Which is one of the issues I have with DC right now. They spoil their own plot lines, but in the new Justice League United, she's in there and she doesn't have the ring. Okay. So you're like, okay, well, this isn't going to last much longer then, because we already have other storylines where she's back to normal.
So I would like to see her, I mean, even if they take her ring away, like write her in a way to where she can be a good and important character and be interesting, because if she's written in such a way where the only way she's interesting is when she's physically challenging everybody because she's just so ridiculously overpowered, then that really just kind of tells you that the writers just aren't really writing her in a compelling way. Because if a character has to be crazy powerful in order to be interesting, then they're not interesting.
And you know what? You're right, though, because Supergirl, I was about ready to drop the book until they announced this event. And this event is really good. And I actually liked the way it ended. It ended with Superman being like, he's like, look, you can't remove the ring. Guy Gardner, I'm putting it on you. You keep her in check. She's like, okay, I'm going to learn to be a Red Lantern. And Guy Gardner's like, all right, you're in my team. And that's how it ended. It didn't end with we're going to fix it. It was, you're a Red Lantern. There is no fix. There's 3 books of her raging out of control, and then 3 books of them dealing with it, and then just, now you're on the team.
I'm interested to see what direction that goes in. But in any event, that'll be discussion for another time, guys. We're going to bring this podcast to an end because we've been going on for like almost 2 hours, I think, an hour and a half or something like that.
I got an hour and 40 minutes clocked in, so about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
that's
actually, I want to ask 2 things here. I want to get people's opinions on the thing. First off, I'd like you guys to leave us any questions you have about anything, because we're gonna start we'll start doing like a mailbag Q&A thing towards the end of these podcasts. Answer any questions. We'll if you want to throw random stuff out there, like why is Rob so obsessed with him? Put it out there. We'll see what's up. You know. If you want to know what Dave has been reading for the weekly poll, then go ahead and let him know. Ask him. Let us know any question. We will answer them all. And if it's completely stupid and out of place, then we'll do like a special out of place question episode or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
And secondly, I wanted to know, because we're kind of trying to put this on an outline or a schedule, or do you want us to limit the topics? Do you want us to make this like a 2-topic 30-minute thing? Do you like 4 topics 40 minutes thing? Do you like hour and a half? Do you want to just to go until Rob has to run off because Dave and I aren't going anywhere? So like, how long do you want these to go for? Because I mean, we could do a 4-hour podcast probably. I think none of us would have a voice at the end of it, but
Yeah, it'd be a long podcast. God, a 4-hour podcast.
We're just trying to see what you guys recommend. And Rob took my thunder and has already started putting it up on iTunes. And you did. I was going to do that, and you took my thunder.
I did.
So we are located on iTunes. Rob will link it down below. So will I. And other than that, I don't have anything else to say on the outro. Do you?
No, that's it. I mean, Civil War's coming on Monday, so
yeah.
You're looking out for that.
At the end of every episode, we should both announce what's coming out on our channels for the next week.
Yeah. So Civil War will be there on Monday. Civil War is going to be a little lengthy, guys. It's a 7-part series overall. It's got 123 comics, including tie-ins. So this will probably be a multi-week event. It'll take a while for me to get through it all. But after that, I have no idea.
I'm going to do a 2-minute video on it.
Well,
just to see if I can.
Yeah, explain the entirety of Civil War.
The entirety of Civil War in 2 minutes. Actually, I can do it in about 10 seconds.
I mean, you could.
Ready?
All right.
There's a Superhero Registration Act. Everybody goes on to different sides of the Superhero Registration Act. One side, the superhero says you either join us and join with S.H.I.E.L.D., or you don't join us and you get to keep doing what you're doing. The teams separate. Captain America versus Iron Man. Iron Man becomes a dick, kills Captain America. Civil War over.
I mean, he doesn't kill Captain America, but thanks for ruining the entire Civil War. Well, I'm just not even going to do an explanation on it now.
Hey, you're good. I'll
just do House of M.
Yeah, I just saved you a couple weeks.
Pages, and you just successfully compressed it
into 10 seconds.
Like 20 seconds.
Wow. 5,000-page omnibus in 10 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, it's got to be some kind of a record.
All right, over on Comic Story this week, I'm going to be doing the Forever Evil Arkham War. That shall come out today or tomorrow. I'm also going to give you a Know Your Universe on Spider-Woman. For the record, did either one of you know that technically the Ultimate Universe Spider-Woman is a transsexual version of Peter Parker?
No. What?
You're gonna have to watch my video. But I'm just letting you know right now. Because I don't know much about the Ultimate Universe, so I know Jessica Drew, and I'm like, well, everybody keeps asking who she is. I'm going to do a video on her. And I'm going through it, and I'm like, Ultimate Universe. Wow. Jessica Drew is a carbon copy clone of Spider-Man with the X chromosome. It's like
wow. So the Ultimate version of Spider-Man is or Spider-Woman's a tranny?
Yes. Spider-Woman in the Ultimate Universe has all of Peter Parker's memories. It's literally the way she looks at life is literally, Rob, you woke up tomorrow and you had boobs.
Wow. Oh my God.
But I'm going to go more into that in my video this week. So.
All right. Well, I definitely want to check that video out.
I'm actually debating titling it Jessica Drew, the transsexual you didn't know existed.
All right, Dave, give us the rundown on what your plans are about your channel.
Hold on. I'm doing that, and I'm also going to do the Final Crisis storyline finally. So
what I would like to do is I would like to kind of introduce people to good books that I read during when I was first getting into comics, and if they're a good idea to read or not when you are getting into comics. So like even new books that I'm reading, I can kind of, tie into that, if they're good to read, or if they're like Age of Apocalypse and you have to read 2 or 3 X-Men books before you read Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Final Crisis. I'm writing the script to it. I'm halfway through the script. I'm not even on the actual book yet.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
like,
Final Crisis. I read that. That was my 3rd Justice League book.
Oh God!
And I still don't understand it. Like, what?
No one understands. No one will ever understand Final Crisis.
I did a test recording on it yesterday. I haven't even finished the script, and the first 3 minutes is explaining what happens before Final Crisis.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, so I got to explain the New God War and who the hell Darkseid is and what is the anti-life equation and oh my God.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and bring this podcast to an end. Again, be sure to check out Benny's channel. And if you guys are coming from Benny's channel, check out my channel. And when Dave gets his channel online, whenever that happens to be, then check his out. So,
And please leave comments down below with questions and what you guys think of this podcast so we can steer it in the direction that you guys want us to go in. We don't want to be doing something that you guys all hate and has no views, and then it's just the three of us talking. Because we can do that without recording. So we want to know what you want to see. So please let us know down below. Also, topic ideas. We love topic ideas. I mean,
yes.
we have plenty we can come up with, but give us more.
Yes, man. You guys have questions. We have answers. So we will talk about whatever you guys are interested in. But in any event, yeah.
All
well,
right.
if nobody has anything else, we'll catch you guys later.
Have a good one.
Peace.
Excelsior! Someone had to say it.